In this video, I'm gonna share with you 6 simple steps for how to get started in UX design, and I'm gonna tell you how I started my journey until I got a job and the lessons I learned from it so that you can avoid making the same mistakes. So let's get started. If you follow these 6 steps, I guarantee you will get a job. And how do I know that? Because that's what I did over a longer period of time, and it got me a job where I'm working right now. So I made this video to really condense down the steps to the essentials for you to get started to make sure that you have all you need to go from beginner to someone who can actually get a job in UX design. As you're watching this video, if you have any questions about any part of what I'm talking about, make sure to let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to get back to you. Also, if you have any tips that I forgot to mention, please make sure to put them in. It'll be useful to me and anyone else watching this video in the future. By the way, if you're interested in videos like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified every time we put out a video. So let's dive into step 1, which is deciding whether UX design is for you. So I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you already know a little bit about what UX design is, but you might not know if it's actually the thing for you. You don't know if you're gonna enjoy this. And I picked a really useful resource for you to be able to do that. So there's this website called Career Foundry, and they offer UX design programs, but they also have this very nice and short email course. It's a 6-day course. If you put in your name and your email, you don't have to pay anything. And they'll basically send you a series of introduction email about UX design to help you decide whether this is the thing that you want to be doing as your job. By the way, everything I mentioned in this video is going to be linked in the description, so you can check it out. You can keep referring back to it as you go through these steps. The other thing you can do to decide whether UX design is for you is to actually talk to someone who has a job that you want to be doing. So in this case, you go and find a UX designer, whether it's a friend or a friend of a friend, just talk to them about what their job is like, what they enjoy about it, what they don't enjoy about it, and that'll give you a much more solid idea of what the day-to-day job is like, and not just the highlights or what's great about it. So that's also a really good thing for you to try. All right, so step 2 is to take a course to learn the principles. Now this is really important because a lot of people, when they want to learn about UX design, start watching random tutorials here and there and have the feeling that they're making progress. But when you're learning in such a scattershot way, you never have anything concrete that you can say that you've mastered. And that's why it's really important for you to go through a structured curriculum. And I picked out 2 really good courses for you to try, and I'm gonna show them to you right here. So the first one is the Introduction to User Experience Design. This is a course by Coursera, and it's free for you to take, and you only need to pay to get the certificate, which is not something that's that important in my opinion. And this course has gotten a ton of really good reviews, and the syllabus is also really good. It's not too long. It's 5 weeks long, and it gives you all of the basics that you need. If you don't know a lot about UX design, it has a really good overview in the beginning that just takes 1 hour. And then it takes you through the steps that you need to know, like how do you gather requirements for a design, and then how do you start thinking about alternatives, and then prototyping, and then final step is to evaluate your design. So this is a really good course to go through, and it's completely free. Just start with this course, the Coursera one, as long as you actually go through it and finish it. And once you finish the course, now you're ready to start practicing on your own and start mastering a design tool. Now for this, I also picked out 2 tools for you. One is Figma, and it has a very generous free plan. You can be working on it using all the features completely for free. And it has some collaboration features so that if you're working with someone, you're able to work on the same design file at the same time, kind of like working in a Google Doc. Another option is from Adobe. If you already have some Adobe apps, it's called Adobe XD, and it also has a generous free plan that you can go with. Figma is based in the browser, so no matter which computer you have, like a Mac or a PC or a Linux, it'll work on everything. Same thing for Adobe XD, so these tools are both free and they're available no matter which computer you're using. I'm also gonna include a link to a quick tutorial for Figma. This is a short tutorial that will show you all you need to know just to get started. And with the principles that you have from the course, you'll be able to apply them while designing something, an app or a website in Figma. All right, step number 4. Now this is the most important step, which is practice. This is where a lot of people actually stop. Most people are happy to do kind of the passive learning, kick back, watch some videos, read some articles, You feel good about yourself, but you're not actually learning until you start practicing. The easiest way to get started is to take something that's already out there and redesign it, or recreate a design that you like inside something like Figma. Because when you take a good design and you draw out the design pixel by pixel again, you start to like absorb why these decisions were made, what's good layout, good typography, good spacing. You'll learn that by copying a good design. Another thing you can do is take an app that you think is really bad. So maybe you're using an app for your bank and that was really bad. You know that you don't like it, your friends don't like it. So what you can do is take all the principles that you learned in the course, which include gathering user requirements and just doing some research and then designing a new solution and then testing it out with people to see how much of an improvement it made, right? And then after you've done that, you should write about that and put it out there and get feedback on it. So that's what practice means. It's really going through the whole cycle, applying all the principles that you learned. And that's really, I can't stress this enough. This is the most important step. And this is the step that most people skip out on. Like they watch a few tutorials and then they call themselves a designer. It really doesn't work that way. You have to put in the hard work and you have to put up with the feeling that you know that you're not good enough in the beginning, but you know in your mind what like a good design looks like and you want to get to that point. And that gap is always frustrating, but you will get to it only by practicing. So one tip I can give you when you're practicing, if you're designing for iOS or Android, basically you're designing a mobile app, is to check out the human interface guidelines by Apple and Google. So you can design apps that feel natural, that feel at home on these two platforms. So if you're designing something for an iPhone or an iPad, you should check out the human interface guidelines. Basically what this is a set of guidelines from Apple telling you what makes good design on iOS. And all the pages in it are quite short. It's not a long book that you have to spend a ton of time reading, but it just shows you the principles of what makes a good looking iOS app. And just by sticking to these principles, you can design something that's not too flashy, but that feels right at home on iOS, and the same thing for Android. So if you take a look at the Google resource, and again, all of these are going to be linked in the description, you'll be able to see what good layout looks like on Android, how much spacing you should leave when you're designing something. You don't want text to be like right against the edge. You should be leaving some margins and things like that. So both of these guides are really excellent resources for you to get started designing something for iOS or Android and to have it look really good from the start. Okay, the next to last step is to join a community. Now this is really important, especially if you're someone who's learning design on your own and you don't know a lot of other designers. Being a part of community is gonna help you a ton because it's gonna be a place where you get to ask questions. You have other people who are on the same level as you are that are learning, and you can meet them online. You can start asking and answering questions, getting feedback on your design in the community, and it'll just keep you motivated because you won't feel like you're going through this journey alone. So I picked out one community that I'm gonna link in the description, and it's called Designer Hangout. This is an invite-only community, but it's a free community. There are also paid communities, but I wanted to focus everything in this video on what's free. And basically, you request an invite, you fill out a few information. They just to control the quality of who's coming in, and then you'll be able to join a Slack community where you get to chat to people. There are Q&As. There's even a job board. Communities are a great way to get a job as you start talking to people and building relationships. Maybe someone will be works at a company and you've already built a good relationship with that person. They will think of you when they need someone to hire for a UX design job, for example. All right, final step, step 6, is learning what you need to know in order to get a job. So this is only relevant if you want to go and get a job at a company instead of freelance somewhere. And my 2 tips for you to get a job is 1, to browse job descriptions, because that's the best way for you to know exactly what a company wants in someone that is hiring. Because sometimes, especially if you're hanging out online and seeing what designers are talking about, you're gonna think that that's what companies care about, but it's not necessarily the same thing. When someone is hiring, they're looking for a very specific set of requirements, and you may have like 3 of them, and they need 5 or 6 of stuff that you haven't really learned about yet. So just browsing job descriptions is a really good way to know what you need to hit exactly and start to work on your pitch and presenting yourself as someone who knows all these topics, and just search for junior UX designer and you'll find something like this. And what you want to focus on is the requirements and the skills and experience. And this will give you a really good idea of what you need to hit in order to be able to get a job at a company. Basically, the list of requirements should be a list of goals for you. You should browse a few job descriptions and create a checklist of items that you need to have so that when you start applying, you already have these things that you know you need, rather than you finding out during a job interview that there is this really important concept that you should know, and now you need to go learn about it. So one thing that comes up a lot when you're applying for a job, even from junior positions, is that you'll see the company is asking for 2 or 3 years of experience for you to apply to that job. Now, the reason most companies put that is just to intimidate people and start to pre-filter candidates who aren't confident enough to apply. So as long as you're confident enough in being able to present your skills and show what you've worked on, just go ahead and apply to these jobs anyway. What's really important for you in this step is to have something to show. So if you'll remember from step 4 of practicing, you need to work on something and then post it online along with a write-up. That means don't just show me some pretty pictures, some pretty designs. Write an article saying exactly how you went through the whole design process, how you did user research, what your design process was like, your thinking process, the drafts that you tried, the alternatives that you considered before you settled on a design, and then the final design that came out, and how you tested it and what the results were like, and what you learned from that, and publish that as an article. The biggest mistake that junior designers make is just to make some pretty screens, put them up on a website, and think that that's a good portfolio. It's not, because 1, you could have gotten those from anywhere, and 2, it doesn't show the person looking at them that you know what you're doing. Maybe you just happened to design something that was simple enough and looked okay, but you didn't show that you're actually a good designer who knows how to think about design problems and design solutions for them. So basically, all that a company wants when it's hiring someone is to answer the question, can I trust that this person can do this job or not? And if you have something documenting your thought process, then I can just go and read it and see how much you know about this topic, what your thinking process is like, and that will help me make a decision about whether I think you're good enough for this job or not.